A chilly winter morning in New York City. The air was crisp, tinged with the faint scent of roasted chestnuts from street vendors lining the busy sidewalks above. Down in the subway station, the chaos of the morning rush hour was already in full swing. The platform buzzed with energy, business people clutching coffee cups, students with oversized backpacks, and tourists poring over subway maps. Nearby, a street musician strummed a familiar tune on a battered acoustic guitar. The melody floated above the noise of the station, its sweet notes briefly pausing the hurried steps of passers-by. A young woman stopped to listen, dropping $1 into the open guitar case before disappearing into the crowd. A father with a toddler balanced on his shoulders walked by, the child giggling as she clutched a balloon shaped like a dinosaur, all mingling in the orchestration that defined the city's rhythm. Amid this crowd stood a man who seemed surprisingly unremarkable, blending into the background with ease. He wore a plain grey coat, a scarf wrapped loosely around his neck, and a knit cap pulled low over his forehead. His stance was relaxed, his eyes observing the scene around him with quiet interest. This was Tom Cruise, the Hollywood superstar, but there were no flashing cameras, just Tom, slipping into the anonymity that the subway uniquely afforded. Tom had always loved moments like this, walking among strangers unnoticed, soaking in the life of the city. It was here, in the mundane and unpolished interactions of everyday people, that he found inspiration, even solace. Among the bustling throng, Tom's attention was drawn to a little girl, skipping happily alongside her mother, her tiny boots tapping out a cheerful rhythm on the tiled floor. The girl, in a bright pink coat, her hair, tied in 2 pigtails, bobbed as she moved, and in her hands she clutched a worn, stuffed rabbit. The mother, a composed woman in her early 30s, held her daughter's free hand tightly while juggling a tote bag on her other arm. The girl, who couldn't have been more than 5, was brimming with questions. "Mummy, why is the train so big? Does it go faster than Daddy's car?" "Oh." Her mother smiled patiently. "Yes, it's big, because lots of people need to ride it, and it goes much faster." "Oh." Tom watched as her mother adjusted the girl's scarf, her tenderness evident in every gesture. For a moment, his thoughts drifted to his childhood. Memories of holding his mother's hand on trips to the train station, marveling at the world with wide-eyed wonder. A gust of cold air swept through the station as the sound of an approaching train echoed. People shifted closer to the platform edge. Her mother let go of her daughter's hand for just a moment to check her phone because of a vibrating notification, while the girl's attention was drawn to the bustling crowd and the advertisements plastered on the walls. It was a small moment, so brief that no one would have noticed. But when the little girl turned to ask her mother another question, she was no longer by her side. At first, the little girl panicked and glanced around to find her mother, her little face scrunched up in confusion. She hugged her rabbit tighter, her small body trembling slightly as she realized she was alone. The little girl started to cry, but as he watched Ami's eyes fill with tears, he knew he couldn't just stand by. He took a step forward, keeping his movements calm and deliberate so as not to startle her. "Hi there," he said gently, crouching down to her level. "What's your name?" "Oh." Amy looked up at him, her lower lip quivering. "Ami," she whispered. "That's a beautiful name." Tom said, offering her a reassuring smile. "My name's Tom. Are you lost?" Amy nodded, tears threatening to spill over. "I can't find my mummy." Tom's heart ached for the little girl. "It's okay, Ami. We'll find her." Tom noticed Ami clinging tightly to her stuffed rabbit, as though the worn toy might protect her from the overwhelming sights and sounds of the busy subway. He stayed crouched, his calm demeanor encouraging her to focus on him rather than her growing fear. "That's a nice bunny you've got there," and he said, nodding toward the plush rabbit. "Does it have a name?" "Yeah," Amy sniffled, wiping her nose with the sleeve of her pink coat. "Bunny," she said softly. "Bunny, huh? A classic name. I bet Bunny's been on a lot of adventures with you." She nodded again, her grip loosening ever so slightly on the toy. Tom continued, keeping his tone light and conversational. "Well, Bunny and I are here to help. We're going to find your mummy in no time." Oh. As he spoke, Tom glanced around the platform, trying to spot her mother. She had been just a few feet away before the crowd surged forward to board the train. Now, she was nowhere to be seen. Tom stood up slowly, extending a hand to Amy. "Let's go talk to someone who can help, okay? They have people here whose job it is to make sure kids like you stay safe." Oh. Amy hesitated for a moment before placing her tiny hand in his. Tom led her toward the booth at the edge of the platform, where a transit employee in a navy blue uniform was helping a passenger with directions. "Excuse me?" Tom said, his voice steady but urgent. The employee turned her attention to him. "How can I help you?" she asked. "This little girl's lost. Her name's Amy, and she got separated from her mum here on the platform," Tom explained. "Can you make an announcement or use the radio to let people know?" She recognized him immediately, her heart pounding harder as she realized she was standing face to face with one of the most famous movie stars in the world. However, she did not let her emotions overshadow her work. She knew that, in this situation, Amy's safety was the most important thing. The employee immediately took action to notify the station's security department. Then, she crouched down to Amy's eye level, her tone warm and reassuring. "Hi, Amy. We're going to find your mummy, okay? You're safe with us." The radio sounded and began describing Amy's appearance. "Attention, we have a lost child on platform 4. Female, approximately 5 years old, wearing a pink coat and carrying a stuffed rabbit. If anyone looking for a missing child matching this description, please notify us immediately." Tom guided Amy to a nearby bench and sat beside her. He noticed her legs swinging nervously, the soles of her boot brushing against the bench's metal edge. "Are you cold?" Tom asked, noticing how tightly she was hugging the rabbit. "A little," Amy admitted. Without hesitation, Tom took off his coat and gently draped it over the little girl. "There you go. That should keep you warm until your mum gets here." Amy looked up at him with wide eyes. "Thank you," she murmured. "You're welcome," Tom replied. "You're being so brave. You know that. I bet your mum is looking for you just as hard as we're looking for her." Tom continued to distract Amy with light conversation. He asked her about her favorite color, her favorite snacks, and even what superpower she would choose if she could have one. "I'd fly," and Amy said, her eyes lighting up a little, "so I could find my mummy fast." Tom chuckled. "That's a great choice. Flying is pretty cool." Meanwhile, her mother was moving into the station, her heart pounding, as she called out her daughter's name. "Amy, Amy!" Her voice echoed through the tiled corridors, but there was no response. She approached the transit worker, her breath hitching as she tried to explain. "My daughter is 5, wearing a pink coat. She was with me, but we got separated near platform 4. Please, have you seen her?" The worker nodded sympathetically. "We've just received a report of a lost child matching that description. She's safe. Follow me, and I'll take you to her." Her mother nearly collapsed with relief, her knees trembling as she followed the worker. When I saw Tom and the little girl, her mother rushing toward them, her face a mix of panic and relief. "Mummy!" Amy cried, jumping off the bench and sprinting toward her mother. Her mother dropped to her knees, catching Amy in a tight embrace. "Oh, my baby," she sobbed, holding her daughter close. "I was so scared." Oh. Amy buried her face in her mother's coat, tears streaming down her cheeks, and said, "The nice man helped me." Her mother looked up at Tom, her eyes glistening with gratitude. "Thank you," as she said, her voice breaking. "Thank you so much for staying with her." Tom smiled gently. "I'm just glad you're both back together. She's a brave little girl." Oh. When Amy and her mother met again, the moment of reunion was emotional. Her mother knelt and held her daughter tightly, her eyes filled with tears of joy that her daughter was finally safe in her arms. Amy, her eyes filled with tears, also held her mother's hand tightly, buried her face in her mother's coat, and breathed a sigh of relief. It was an unforgettable scene. Tom Cruise stood not far away, quietly observing. His heart swelled with relief at seeing Amy and Sarah reunited, but he also felt joy and peace in his own heart. In a world full of chaos, this small moment was a reminder of the connection between people. After a few minutes, when mother and daughter had settled down, Tom approached them, his face gentle and full of concern. "I'm so glad you found each other," and he said softly. "If you don't mind, can I come with you?" Her mother looked at him, her eyes sparkling with surprise and gratitude. "Thank you so much, Tom," as she said, her voice filled with emotion. "We would love it if you could come with us. Amy is really happy to have you with us. Thank you from the bottom of my heart." Amy, calmer now, looked up at Tom with shining eyes. "Tom, you're so wonderful. Let's go on this train together. It's going to be so much fun." She laughed loudly, her excitement unconcealed. Tom smiled at her. "Okay, we'll go together. I'm so happy to be your friend." He smiled softly, then gently led them onto the train. The three of them boarded the train together, choosing a seat near the window. Amy was still holding her mother's hand, but Tom's presence made her more comfortable. As the train began to move, Tom looked out the window, then turned back to smile at her. "Amy," he began, "do you often take the metro?" Amy shook her head, her eyes lighting up as she replied, "No, Uncle. Usually, we take the bus. But the metro is so fun. It's fast, and there are so many bright lights out there." Oh. Tom smiled, pointing to the train's information board. Every station in Paris has its own story. "Did you know that some stations are decorated like little museums? For example, the Louvre Rivoli station has art statues." Oh. Amy listened eagerly, then turned to her mother. "Mummy, can we go to that station next time? I want to see the statues." Her mother nodded and smiled, stroking her daughter's hair. "Sure, honey, we'll go when we have the chance." Oh. Tom continued the conversation, this time turning to lighter questions to help Amy feel more at home. "So, Amy, what do you like most about this city?" Oh. The little girl thought for a moment, then replied, "My favorite thing is the lights. At night, everything is sparkling, like stars." Tom nodded. "Yes, Paris is called the City of Light. I think you just described it very well." Oh. Amy sat right next to the window, her big round eyes looking out, occasionally turning back to look at Tom. Then she raised her hand, pointing to the buildings outside the window. "I think if you could fly, I would go all the places I've never been. Maybe I would find the people who need me the most." Oh. Tom looked in the direction Amy was pointing, then turned back to look at her and said, "Maybe, but one thing I know for sure, wherever you go, you will meet precious people. Like today, seeing you too." Her mother looked at Tom, her voice filled with gratitude. "I don't know how to thank you. You are thoughtful. You helped Amy not only feel safe, but also happy again. Tom smiled modestly. I just want to make sure she feels better after an experience like this. Ami is a brave girl, and I'm happy to help. Everyone can do good. We just need to be willing to help others when they need it. The train continued to roll, and this moment became a part of their lives, a part they would never forget. As the train was about to stop at the next stop, Tom looked at the mother and daughter. He said, standing up gently, I think it's time for me to get off. He bent down to Ami's eye level, waving goodbye. Stay strong and happy, Ami. Take care of yourself, both of you. Amy waved at Tom, her voice sweet. Goodbye, Uncle Tom. I will miss you. Bye, Ami, Tom replied, waving back, stepping off the train with a small smile on his face. As he stepped into the crowd, the train's sound echoed around him, and he felt like he had done the right thing, even if it was a small but meaningful moment. For all the chaos and noise of the city, moments like this reminded him why he loved it. The humanity, the connections, the quiet acts of kindness that wove people together, even for just a fleeting moment. His actions remind us that kindness is always around us. It doesn't depend on fame, wealth, or status. Tom Cruise's fame often places him in roles where he's seen as larger than life. On the big screen, he's known for daring activities. But here, in the ordinary world, he showed something even more powerful, humility and a sense of responsibility. He could have walked away, blended back into the crowd, and left the problem for someone else to solve. Instead, he chose to engage, to use his voice and presence in a way that mattered in that moment. In Ami's eyes, Tom wasn't a movie star. He was simply a kind stranger who took the time to understand her fear and provide comfort. That trust, though fleeting, left an impression not only on her, but also on her mother, who witnessed how her child was cared for in her absence. Perhaps those who witnessed this story at that station will carry this moment with them, choosing to act with compassion the next time they see someone in need. Kindness, after all, has a ripple effect. A single moment of care can inspire others, creating an unbroken chain of humanity. How often do we pass by situations where someone might need help, rationalizing our inaction with thoughts like, someone else will handle it, or I don't want to get involved? This narrative challenges us to reconsider. Every day, we're presented with opportunities to be kind, to notice when someone is struggling, and to offer help even in the smallest ways. It simply requires being willing to care. Perhaps the next time someone faces a difficult please, they'll choose to stop, to help, to connect. Thanks for watching the video. Hope you enjoy it. Follow us for more interesting videos. Hope to see you soon.